He doesn't really have a strategy. He has vibes. He has gimmicks. He thinks he has a bond, a connection with the people that gives him some insight. Maybe he has. But he hasn't got other than his absurd obsession of looking backwards to Margaret Thatcher, which seems to be the thing that disturbs him most.
Andrew, good morning.
Good morning to you both.
We've been enjoying imagining you driving a sports car, a convertible, for a lot of the morning.
We don't have to imagine that. It can be seen. It's been done.
I definitely. I was also worried that is Andrew going to be on holidays? He's a very august, successful people. In my experience, those people sod off on holiday for all of August.
Particularly if they spend lots of time in France.
But Andrew Neil is a Stakhanovite figure. I thought, no, he's not going to be one of these people who just say, oh, it's August, I'm leaving my responsibilities to Times Radio. And thankfully you're not, Andrew.
No, when the cat's away, the mice come out to play.
Oh, my goodness me. There's a thought for us all to have to begin with. Now, listen, what we've been talking about so far on Times Radio Breakfast. How about this one? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejecting the latest 15-point plan for Gaza, brokered by Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Israel's Special Envoy for Trade and Innovation, Fleur Hassan Nahum, told us she understood why Israeli officials lacked confidence in the Board of Peace.
I know that they're facing incredible opposition. I know that also elements within the Board of Peace are not exactly on the side of peace, let's put it that way. You've got elements like Turkey who are cozying up to Pakistan. They just signed a deal 2 days ago, and Pakistan's foreign minister said Israel has to be destroyed. These are their friends. So what confidence would Israelis have that these are the right people there to bring about so-called peace?
We've also been talking about new data analysis which shows American workers who are functionally illiterate now earn about the same per hour as the average British worker. Times columnist Fraser Nelson told us it was far easier to become successful without having received a good education in the US.
In the UK, we've got a very rigid system where the link between how you do well at school and what you earn is very, very tight. In America, it's far less tight. So something like 25% of the lowest education Americans are in the top 50% of earners. For the UK, it's about half that. So America is probably the best place in the world to be ambitious, hardworking and uneducated.
That's an interesting way of putting it, isn't it? That was Fraser Nelson there. We had the Grand Tour presenter, the former Grand Tour presenter now, Richard Hammond, on to talk about convertibles, which we are going to get into. But he also told us what minor law he'd like to see changed in the UK.
Whoever decided you have to put your registration number on parking tickets, which means the only example of simple human kindness really ever evidenced on the high street is when somebody says, oh, look, there's half an hour left on my ticket, would you like it? Thank you. And you put it in your car window. But no, you have to put your registration number on it so you can't pass it off.
That's a
so
great
they're
one.
actually obstructing kindness.
Do you think it's what? Do you think that's?
Is it stealing?
Come on, Rosie. It's sharing. It's sharing.
Look, I'm not on the side of the car parking attendants. Let me make that very clear.
I think that's a dangerous place to be.
I'm going to have a tough morning.
It's a strange hill to die on that one.
We're going to ask this morning then, if Benjamin Netanyahu won't agree to a peace deal with Hamas, brokered by Donald Trump's Board of Peace, is there any hope for reaching an agreement? Has our attitude as a nation hardened towards migrants over the last 10 years? And are convertibles no longer fashionable or the perfect antidote to the heat wave? But shall we start, Andrew, by asking whether Andy Burnham will be able to change the course of the UK economy? The Times is reporting that Burnham is struggling to appoint a key advisor because they are worried this new Labour government might bring in a wealth tax. It's symptomatic, is it, Andrew, of Labour's quite difficult relationship with business?
We don't really know what Andy Burnham's relationship with business will be. He hasn't really had one in the past. We don't know what his attitude to wealth creation is going to be. We know his attitude towards tax and spend, what you do with the wealth, but how you create the wealth, we don't know. And this business with Jim O'Neill, the former Goldman Sachs economist, there's a kind of circularity about this that Andy Burnham wants Jim O'Neill to join his government to reinsure investors. But Andy Burnham is considering taxes that Jim O'Neill thinks will deter investors. So you can't have both. You've got to have one or the other. Look, the truth is, the government is in a difficult place. It's cribbed and confined. Our national debt is over £3 trillion. We pay more to service that debt than any other G7 economy, indeed more than most G20 economies in the world. and it would just take one. It's a powder keg, and at the moment it's fine. The moment the bond markets are quiet, but one false move, one mistake, and the risk is that that powder keg blows up.
And we've got this week ahead where Andy Burnham's going to be travelling the country, listening, he says, to voters, to residents, about how he can help on the cost of living. And I wonder, Andrew, to what extent he could actually announce something that would have a material impact on cost of living without really hamstringing himself when it comes to the budget at the end of October.
Well, the answer to that is he can't, Rosie. And this is all just part of the performative nonsense we've had. I mean, we've had nothing but gimmicks and marginal tweaks, crowd pleasers that make 100 million, I think, what was it, for the taxes that pubs have to pay, relief there, about 45 quid off your fuel bill over a 6-month period by cutting the VAT. None of that making a material difference either to the cost of living in any major way or to the need to get growth and competitiveness and rising productivity back into the British economy. I mean, he should not be travelling the country. If you're on holiday in Scarborough, Whitley Bay, or Brighton, now that's the thing you want to see as the Prime Minister. you want to enjoy your holiday. He's had a break, I understand. He should be using what remains of the summer to get up to speed. He needs to be on a steep learning curve. He's even less prepared for government than Keir Starmer was when he took power in July 2024. He should have a cold towel over his head, and he should be going through policy papers and options and ideas and meeting with his advisors in Whitehall, ready for the return of Parliament to get himself into policy shape to start making a material difference and improvements to the nation.
It is easier to do that when you're popular, Andrew, and so
Indeed.
far he's proved that. I mean, his popularity, I think, is sort of significantly higher than the others. Yes. Plus 19, I think that was the last week, so it might now be out of date. Okay, there we go. So it's up. So, the strategy, Andrew, seems to be, we talked a lot about sort of there being a vibes Prime Minister, but make an impression, make yourself more recognisable and known across the country, and maybe that then gives you more wiggle room to make the more difficult policy decisions after.
Right, but he's done that. I think the country's pretty well aware that we have a new Prime Minister and that this new Prime Minister is very different from the previous Prime Minister, that he's more accessible, he's more a people person, he actually speaks human, he's not robotic, people quite like him, he's got an eye for the quick PR, the TikTok move, the gimmicks, as I mentioned. That's fine, that's established him, that probably had to be done. But September isn't far away now. The budget is on October the 28th. That is a seminal moment for his government. He needs to be preparing that and not looking for stuff for his TikTok account by interrupting people's holidays in British coastal resorts.
Do you think, Andrew, he needs to use this political capital? Here's the question. Maybe no amount of political capital he has is enough to support the thing he would actually need to do. We were just talking with Fraser Nelson about the difference in earning power between US and UK people. In order to fix the UK economy, would you have to do something so seismic, so significant that no one is ever going to do? I mean, one of the things about this country is we never really have revolutions. We never really have moments of huge change. It's not part of our national character. But that means we just tend to constantly add on and take off, and it's a nation of accretion and fiddling rather than substantive change. But if he wanted to change our economy such that we could compete with America to any degree whatsoever, is there something he could do? Change the energy policy completely, change the taxation policy completely, do something so big that you could see it from space and therefore it might actually have a chance of doing something significant?
I don't think he's that kind of Prime Minister. No. I mean, he doesn't really have a strategy. He has vibes. He has gimmicks. He thinks he has a bond, a connection with the people that gives him some insight. Maybe he has. But he hasn't got other than his absurd obsession of looking backwards to Margaret Thatcher, which seems to be the thing that disturbs him most. And with this vague idea that he wants to unpick the past 30 years of policy, which of course include 13 years of Labour government. None of that's going to happen. What we need is a clear strategy to get economic growth going again, to get productivity rising, because that's what creates wealth, and to get people's living standards rising. Now, very little of that to do that would be popular to begin with. It isn't a gimmick. It isn't something that would be fun to do. But I think people are in a mood to buckle down now, have someone who is serious about getting this country back on track. But whether he believes in the policies or whether we're just in for more of the same, more tax, more public spending, more intrusive government, more performative politics rather than substance, well, we'll find out in the next couple of months. And as Rosie says, the undoubted popularity it has at the moment, and actually his bounce, his honeymoon, is bigger than I thought it would be. That's all to the good. We want him to be in a position to be able to do things with the support of the nation. But if he doesn't make a step change in the way we're going, that popularity will have gone before the spring snow melts next year.
Not there'll be any spring snow anymore, I would imagine. Andrew, he believes in big government, though, doesn't he? That's the point that you were just as you were making there. That he believes the answer, whatever the answer is government to be more intrusive. That's, I think, a fundamental sort of article of faith for him.
And I think that, I mean, it's almost the opposite of mine, but I don't know where it's worked. If big government worked, Britain would be a huge success story, because our peacetime government has never been bigger. Taxes have never been higher. Government spending has never been higher in peacetime. Government has never been more intrusive. The state even polices our tweets. There's more CCTV in Britain than probably the rest of Europe put together. So, if big government was the solution, we would be rock and rolling. And I see if you stand back, and let's not be so parochial, big government is omnipresent, is quotidian everywhere across Western Europe. And everywhere across Western Europe, from Scandinavia down to Italy, governments, economies are stagnating. So something has gone wrong, and more of the same surely cannot be the answer. But that, from what we know so far, would seem to be the trajectory that Andy Burnham is on. And if it is, he is not going to be the transformative Prime Minister that he thinks he could be and that the country needs.
Yeah, Gary said on WhatsApp, Burnham's popularity is shallow. I think Andrew is absolutely right. Burnham should be getting on with the job. The point is, I don't think he knows how to. He's got gimmicks and crowd pleasers.
Well, maybe no one can. I spoke to someone relatively close to the centre of government, and they said, it's an impossible job, Andrew. There's too many departments, there's too many people. Every single task is hemmed in. You talked about being cribbed and confined, which I think is a line from Macbeth. That's what government is. It's an impossible job. I imagine if you come into that job and you go, you want to change things, and actually you can't, because everything has another effect on somewhere else, and everything is difficult. It must feel almost overwhelming.
Well, maybe it will take a crisis to bring us to our senses. I hope not, but maybe it will. But the line that is all just too difficult, let's go back to the mid-1970s, when inflation was 26%. That's right, 26%. Interest rates, I think, were over 15%. Over 15%. We had a 3-day week because of strikes. There were power cuts. I remember writing stories at The Economist with a paraffin lamp to be able to see what I was typing on a manual typewriter, because the electric one didn't work. We didn't have computers in these days. And people said, including at the heart of Britain, including at the heart of the British establishment, in the civil service and in the cabinet, it's just too difficult. We can't turn this country round. Let's just go for what one senior civil servant said to me is, let's just plump for the civilized management of decline. Well, might have been civilized for him in his Whitehall or St James's Club, but it sure wasn't civilized for the rest of the country suffering that decline. That was the attitude, but lo and behold, starting in 79-80, all the way through to the great crash in 2008 under Tory and Labour governments, this country had a 30-year revival of growth, success, rising prosperity, the creation of world-class businesses, and of tackling everything from child poverty to welfare reform. So it can be done. But I don't see the Thatcher, I don't see the Blair, I don't even see the Nigel Lawson or the Gordon Brown on the horizon at the moment.